Hello and welcome back to the Suburban Chateau. I'm Stephanie Everett, and today we're going to go on another antiquing journey. This time we're going to the Lancaster, Pennsylvania area of the state and going to see some incredible antiques malls, not only in Lancaster itself, but Strawburg, in Columbia, and all the different towns that surround Lancaster. So pretty excited to take you on this epic antiquing journey. We had been in the Poconos for the beginning of our vacation and then headed south to the Lancaster area. We had a lot of things we wanted to see. And of course, a lot of that had to do with antiques in the area. We headed first to the Strawburg Antique Market. And this is a market that I'm familiar with. Next door was the Old Mill Antiques. I couldn't help but take a little video of this absolutely cool faucet in the bathroom. And the bathroom was filled with antiques. That was kind of exciting. But when I came out and I started to look at the antiques, the very first thing that caught my eye was the one thing that I am collecting right now, and that is the Currier and Ives pattern Adams plates, and this was the tall ship variety. So I was able to get that right off the bat. I was very happy when I saw the very thing I was looking for. The Antiques Market of Strawburg is a 3-story building with quite a variety of different antiques and reasonable prices as well. I was very pleased with what I saw in the antique market, and that's what I had noticed before when I attended that antique market. Some of the things that I was looking for in particular on this week of antiquing were lidded picnic baskets. It's something that I like to paint and transform, and I always like to look for those in a reasonable price. I always am very inspired by toll painting, so that's one thing I'm also looking for. And of course, the cubist glass and other unique glassware items. I'm always checking out typewriters as well. That's just like a family thing. Have to help my daughter and look at every typewriter that I see in an antique store. But I really enjoyed the Strawburg Antique Market. Now, right off the bat, I ran into some Whitehall cubist ware, and I was very excited to see that. And I did run into some lidded picnic baskets as well. The prices I found were a little bit higher than I'm used to on my side of the state. In the eastern part of the state, it seemed like they ran a little higher. I've also had recent very good luck on Facebook Marketplace with the lidded picnic baskets. So I think I'm a little ruined on price because I found some great deals on my own and on Facebook Marketplace. But I did see quite a few baskets. One thing I always love finding when I'm treasure hunting is granny square crochet. I just love the way they are put together. This one was only $18. If I could figure out a way to change the granny square covers into vests, I would do it in a heartbeat. And of course, always running into the towware trays. Now, while we were on this trip, not only was I looking for some specific things and checking out the antique malls of Lancaster, but I also was just trying to get a good idea of how antiques markets were laid out and put together and organized. This trip happened in late July before I set up my antiques booth in the Antique Depot in Duncansville. So I was just wanting to see what each of these vendors was doing to display their goods, how they had them on the shelves, how they had the pictures hung, what were some of the tips and tricks I could pick up just by looking at the vendors that I saw in Lancaster. One of my favorite antiques booths within the Strawburg Antique Market was this little bump out space. Of course, it featured this great old vintage truck, but it had a beautiful layout, and I was very impressed with the antiques I saw there. A lot of milk glass, a lot of things that caught my eye, things that I see when I'm antiquing here on the other side of the state. And I recognized a lot of things that look familiar to me. So I really enjoyed this booth. I love the layout. This table was beautiful. I was very inspired. Of course, it really reminds me of my one-stroke painting. I love to see things like this, and I love to get inspiration. I also saw a lot of Cubist glass. Some was Fostoria, some was Whitehall. Quite a variety here in this part of the state. Now, since we were on vacation, my other half was taking naps in the car every time I went to an antique store. And so I walked across the parking lot to see the Old Mill Antique Store. And it really literally was across the parking lot from the Strawburg Antique Mall. And I found it to be a really cool, of course, in an old mill, cool antique store. And the one thing I did notice, it was more full of furniture. Since we were just in our car and on vacation, we couldn't really entertain the idea of purchasing any furniture, but they really had a beautiful selection. Lots of corner cupboards, lots of pie cupboards, lots of armoires, things like that. I did see a picnic basket there, but really more of a furniture antique store. But I really enjoyed going to the Old Mill Antique Store. I highly recommend it. Then after that, we were feeling a bit famished. We had driven all morning, and I remember going to the Speckled Hen with one of my daughters years back. So we got a latte, we got a little brunch, and then we were able to continuing on antiquing. And we then visited the Antique Village of Strawburg. Now, I really enjoyed this antique store, and again, I believe I have been there before. Quite a combination of glassware. Saw a lot of things I love. I love Chrismons. I always have to capture them when I see them. I saw typewriters. I saw Fostoria, Cubist ware, all the things that I love looking at. I think the two things that I found the most at the Strawburg Antique Mall were that Cubist, Fostoria, and the Whitehall glassware, which I collect all of that, and the baskets. And I found tons, especially of Longaberger. This was a gold mine that I found right here. Unfortunately, they were just priced sky high. I couldn't touch them. That size picnic basket that we're looking at right there is my ideal for painting and transforming them into something a little different. And I just love those. But these were all over $100 each. And they were absolutely immaculate, spotless. And they had just everywhere I looked, there was another lidded picnic basket, but they just were out of range for my purchase. So I was excited to see that many large baskets. I didn't even know that Longaberger made that big of baskets. This was the second building in the three different buildings at the Antique Village of Strawburg, and it was really full of furniture as well, and large furniture, a lot of office furniture, a lot of antique furnitures, but really interesting and just a huge building with lots of variety. Now, what I found next just made my heart skip a beat. You may recall about a year ago, I put together a video and I fell in love with a Fostoria punch bowl that looked very much like this, except it was maybe set up a little bit more glamorously. But I always love seeing these giant Fostoria punch bowls. They just make my heart skip a beat. They're gorgeous. And it was a lot of fun to see that one. It was a little bit, again, out of my price range, but I'm glad to see that they're available and out in the market today. I was very tempted here by some very beautiful pink Whitehall. This was a relish that I saw, and I do have this in several other colors. So I decided to pass, but it was fun to see it in my color as well. And again, saw lots more picnic baskets in the Antique Village of Strawburg. Now, after we spent the morning shopping for antiques and traveling from the Poconos, we were very happy in the afternoon to arrive at the beautiful bed and breakfast that we were going to stay at for a few days. And this, of course, is the incomparable Cameron Estate Inn. And I just couldn't believe how beautiful this inn was as we drove up. We got there on a Monday, and we really didn't know much about the Cameron Estate Inn, except some friends of ours had recommended it to us. And it turned out that we were the only people staying in the inn for the 3 nights that we stayed there. So we had free reign. We looked at the gardens. They had a beautiful stream running through the back of the property. And the Cameron Estate Inn had once been owned by Simon Cameron, who had been a United States senator in the 1840s. And unbelievably, he was also the Secretary of War under President Lincoln. But he owned that inn, and it remained in his family until the 80s. And then it was turned into a bed and breakfast and remains so today. It's a very popular destination for weddings. And there's my handsome prince. We had stopped for milkshakes, and we were exploring the grounds of the Cameron Estate. It was very much like a Hallmark movie. It was this beautiful inn. We were the only ones there, and just a peaceful place, a quiet place. I just cannot imagine a more resplendent hideaway, getaway vacation destination than the Cameron Estate Inn. And I every day we were there, I just enjoyed driving slowly up that drive and seeing that beautiful building. And it was just a fabulous experience. We had wonderful breakfasts there each morning at the bed and breakfast. And then on the last night of our visit, we had an amazing 4-course meal, and they have a chef on the premises, and he made us an amazing meal that I'll never forget. So it was just a wonderful way to just relax and get away from it all and enjoy the beautiful grounds and gardens of the Cameron Estate Inn. I highly recommend this if you're ever in the Lancaster area. And we found that it was cheaper than even a hotel in the area. Now, we had two more antiques destinations. One of them was in Columbia, Pennsylvania, and this was, of course, the Burning Bridges Antique Mall. 3 floors of antiques, so much painted toolware, so many things, very well laid out, a beautiful building. I was very impressed by it. But I really fell in love with the Cackleberry Antique Mall, and we saw that coming down 30, and we had to stop. I just was so excited to see this Cackleberry Antique Mall, and it was so beautifully laid out. I have to say this was the most organized of all the antique stores we visited, and I didn't know what to expect looking from the outside of the building, but we went in and just was so creative and really saw so many beautifully set up displays. So I got a lot of great ideas for my antiques booth just going to the Cackleberry Antique Market. Tons of Fostoria, glassware, tons of the baskets that I was so looking for, artwork, everything that I enjoy looking at when I go antiquing, quilts, all of those things, and in every nook and cranny of the Cackleberry Antique Mall. Several of the booths that we saw at Cackleberry really stood out to me. This one I had to get some footage of. It was definitely a Halloween themed booth, kind of creepy and macabre, and they had some really creative altered antiques in that booth. And then of course we came across a Tupperware to end all Tupperware booths. Every type of Tupperware you could envision or imagine was there. We saw tons of lidded baskets. Again, I just felt they were a bit pricey, but we saw lots of them, and I thought about some of them for sure. At this point, I was really focusing in on the longer burger basket. I almost went home with this little pie basket, but decided to let it stay there at Cackleberry. But we really saw a ton of very interesting things here. One of the things that struck me about this antique mall were the lit up cases. There were just rows and rows of well-lit antique cases. You can see them there to the right, but it really showed off the glassware. And I think some of the vendors were able to just rent one of those cases instead of a whole booth. Then the thing that really struck me about this antique mall, at the very far end of this antique mall, they had turned a room into a general store. It was full of clothing, hats, wigs, you name it, gloves, umbrellas, picnic baskets, everything you could imagine in a general store. They had rows and rows of ball jars. They had rows and rows of glasses, the ice cream sundae glasses. They had just laid it all the way sky high as if it were a general store. So I got a kick out of this, and I really thought it was, talk about a layout. It was just absolutely stunning. Thank you so much for coming along for our antiques tour of the Amish country, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I hope you'll get a chance to go and see these incredible antique malls. Quite a variety, lots of reasonable prices out there in that area of the state. And I had a great time checking those things out and got a little bit of a prize or two to bring home as well. Thanks again for joining me here at the Suburban Chateau. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Suburban Chateau. If you get an opportunity, we'd love it if you could subscribe to our channel. Thanks so much.